Hey guys, it's Golden Gem Games with a new series known as Character Delete. In the first episode, we will be getting rid of Chi-Chi. At first, there may not be many big differences that change, but as the series continues, having her not exist creates bigger and bigger issues along the way. And we will talk about how the story would change in each arc if Chi-Chi never existed. In the Pilaf saga, the only thing of note is that the Ox King doesn't have a daughter, so he'd have to find Roshi on his own. Other than that, the rest of the arc should play out pretty much the same. This also applies to the World Tournament, as Chi-Chi plays no part in the story during this arc. As for the Red Ribbon arc, not much really changes here either, though this also means that Goku never gets the promise made to him by Chi-Chi, so that promise never happens. And since she isn't there, Goku only has to protect the Ox King in the village and not her. Other than that, the rest of the arc plays out pretty much the same. The Tien Shinhan arc is irrelevant to this, since Chi-Chi never appears really, so this arc can be skipped. Next is King Piccolo. This arc doesn't have much of a change either, though one minor difference is that when the army is ordered to kill Ox King, she will not be there to fend off some of the soldiers. But Ox King should still be able to be rescued by Goku in time, regardless. So, other than that, this arc also won't change. The Piccolo Jr. arc. This is where things get interesting. Since she isn't a character, that also means that she doesn't enter the tournament. And since she never enters that tournament, Goku never gets a proposal to her. And that means they'll never get married, which also causes a big chain of events in Z. But for now, the rest of the arc plays out normally. Now that we are in Z, things get way more interesting and a lot more consequences are shown. For one, since Chi-Chi doesn't exist, Gohan doesn't exist either, and this creates a problem when Raditz shows up. When Raditz shows up at Kame House, this is a bit interesting. Since Gohan isn't there, Raditz can't kidnap him to force Goku to kill humans. So what does he do? Well, chances are he'll probably take another character instead with him, forcing Goku to do the same. If not, he could just kill Goku there, and then that would be the end of the story. But let's assume that he takes someone else with him, probably Bulma. It is at this point where Piccolo will join up with Goku, cause that's still going to happen regardless of Gohan's existence. So they go out to fight Raditz, but this fight will not be as easy for them to win, as Gohan's anger cannot bail them out this time. When Goku grabs Raditz's tail, he needs to keep that tail grabbed. If he lets Raditz go in this scenario, it is very unlikely that Raditz can be beat, since Gohan doesn't show up to attack Raditz and weaken him enough for him to be hit by the special beam cannon. So, assuming Goku does keep on his tail, then Goku could survive the fight. But if not, then Goku and Piccolo are going to have to somehow find a way to recreate the same scene where Goku sacrifices himself with Raditz. Let's assume that the latter happens, and Goku dies along with Raditz in this story. When Raditz is at Death's door, he will still talk about the other Saiyans that will come to get the Dragon Balls, and all of that will still happen, so the Saiyans will still show up. Since Piccolo is alone in this arc, he will also train alone. He won't have Gohan as a student either. And because of this, Piccolo's attitude throughout the series is going to be different. Gohan made Piccolo a better person because of their relationship. But because this doesn't happen, Piccolo is likely still going to be evil and still would want to take over the Earth even when the Saiyans arrive. The battle against the Saiyans will play out the same at first, but things will be a little different when Nappa steps in. The big difference is that Gohan isn't there, so Piccolo won't sacrifice himself to save him anymore. It's safe to assume that Piccolo will probably still get killed before Goku arrives, due to how strong Nappa was and the fact that he has already been defeating Goku's friends easily. Though, if there is a chance that Piccolo could survive by the time Goku gets there, then that means they never have to go to Namek. But we're going to go under the assumption that Piccolo does get killed so that they will travel to Namek. After Goku defeats Nappa with the Kaioken, he has to fight Vegeta. And at first, this isn't an issue. But after he becomes a Great Ape, things get a little crazy, as he's so powerful that Goku can't defeat him, and he ends up getting tortured between his palms. And when Gohan and Krillin come back to save him, well, Gohan isn't there, so it'd only be Krillin who would come back. And this means that the distraction still wouldn't work, but it's safe to assume Yajirobe would still get the jump on Vegeta and cut his tail off. After that, the fight could be really hard to win, as Gohan will not be able to become his own Great Ape to land that final shot on Vegeta. It is at this point where one of two things will happen. If Vegeta continues to still fight after his tail gets cut off, there will not be anyone on the battlefield who has enough power left to defeat him, and Vegeta will come out the victor. But if Vegeta decides he's had enough at this point, then he can leave and make it to the Frieza planet that he was originally going to go to. As for preparations to travel to Planet Namek, there's a few complications. Gohan is not there, and I don't think they're going to have Krillin and Bulma go. I feel like they wouldn't have enough people then. If this is the case, it is likely that they will wait until Goku is recovered from the hospital to leave, which would mean that they'd get there much later, and that would cause a lot of weird plot that's hard to explain on Namek. So we're going to go under the assumption that Bulma and Krillin leave on their own, which means they'll be one member short for all the hardships on Namek. Oh, by the way, we are skipping the filler where they meet the kids on the ship and fake Namek because no one wants to talk about it. So let's just say they made it straight to Namek, land the ship, and then the two Frieza soldiers will still blast the ship with the blaster and still break the ship. Krillin and Bulma will still proceed to find the cave as their little hideout. When Krillin notices the village being attacked by Frieza, Dodoria, and Zarbon, Krillin is not like Gohan. He will not jump in to save Dende. This creates an issue. Since everyone will have been killed, Dende will never be able to tell Krillin about Guru, and this could be an issue, as you can probably tell. Krillin will probably go back to the cave with Bulma and talk about what happened. At this point, Krillin would probably come up with the idea to use the radar to locate a ball that has not been stolen yet, so that they can at least hold one so that Frieza can't make his wish for immortality. With the radar, Krillin locates Guru's place because his Dragon Ball is there. So he travels to Guru's, meets Nail, expresses his concerns for the safety of the Namekians. Guru lets him in, they have a similar conversation, Guru finds out about Kami, then uses his ability to give Krillin a boost. Then Krillin will have to travel back to Bulma with the Dragon Ball. Meanwhile, during all these events we've mentioned, Vegeta has done all the things that he normally does in the arc, including taking out Qui, defeating Dodoria, losing to Zarbon, escaping Frieza with the Dragon Balls, then sensing Krillin's energy, like he does before. So Vegeta will find Krillin and confront him like he normally does, with Zarbon in pursuit. After Vegeta shows his power and destroys Zarbon, he will successfully intimidate Krillin into giving him the ball. He will have all 7 balls, as Gohan doesn't exist to steal the 1 ball that he hid underwater. All hope isn't lost, however, as Vegeta doesn't even know that there's a password to activate said balls, so he still cannot make his wish. Vegeta will try and figure out what's going wrong, but to no avail. Also, Frieza has called the Ginyu Force, and the Ginyu Force will track Vegeta down wherever he happens to be, and will fight him. Krillin will not be with him, as Vegeta didn't have to bargain with Krillin to come with him, so that they could make a wish to stop Ginyu. So Vegeta will likely be defeated by Recoome if they were to fight. It is likely that soon after this happens, Goku will show up, but this time Vegeta will not still be alive. With Vegeta gone, the Ginyu Force will not be killed off. Well, aside from Gudo, because Vegeta would have already killed him. But Goku would have spared them all. They would simply just be put out of commission. Jace would then retreat, get Ginyu's help, while Frieza tries to find Guru so that he could figure out about the password after Ginyu gives him the balls. But now, Goku's gonna have to fight Ginyu like he normally does. After Goku shows his immense power to Ginyu, Ginyu will still perform the body change technique like he normally does, but this time it's worse. Since Vegeta and Gohan aren't allies to Goku, Krillin has the full responsibility of fighting Ginyu in Goku's body. Though because of Goku's weakened power level, and I'm speaking about Ginyu in Goku's body, I think even Krillin should be able to hold him off long enough and hurt him enough to cause him to attempt another change where Goku gets the body back. Then, after that, things get interesting. If Krillin recklessly attacks in the same way that Vegeta does, then Krillin can be caught in the body change and Goku can still toss the frog like normal. But if Krillin fights more smart, he could just outright defeat Ginyu without giving him a chance to change. Either way, Ginyu will be defeated. This part of the story isn't looking too good. The only Namekians who are left is Guru and Nail, and Frieza is on his way to meet them. Guru is too old to do anything, and Nail would be the only one who could give the password. But if Frieza sees him, he may not let him go, and if he doesn't, the Earthlings will have no way to use the Dragon Balls, and their whole trip would have been a waste. But let's assume Frieza sees Nail and lets him go so that he can talk to Guru. Guru would tell him that if he gets killed, then the Dragon Balls won't work anymore. Then Frieza would then chase after Nail as he's trying to tell Goku and Krillin how to make their wishes. An interesting point to make is that since Gohan doesn't exist, Goku would still have a senzu left to give himself after he was beaten down, so he doesn't need to go into the rejuvenation chamber, though this does mean that his Zenkai boost may not be as high with the senzu as it was for the medical machine, but still, their first wish will be to bring Kami and Piccolo back to life. But the difference is that Piccolo, not having any kind of friendship with anyone, could not care less about Namek. Maybe except for his heritage. It's a bit iffy, but I find it more likely that he will show up than when he won't show up, regardless of him being evil or not. Therefore, the second wish will be to bring Piccolo to Namek, as Piccolo would still care about the Namekians, as it's more of like a bloodline thing, and not only that, but Piccolo would relish the challenge of fighting Frieza like he normally does. And this time around, Nail would not be injured like he normally is. So when Piccolo gets there, Nail and everyone there will not have been hurt yet, but Frieza will be in hot pursuit of them. As for the last wish, they do not come up with something in time before Guru passes away due to the grief he felt in his heart over the Namekians being killed. Frieza will show up. Piccolo and Nail will deduce that he is too powerful to fight. So Piccolo and Nail will fuse like they normally do, except this time Nail wasn't injured. And I am assuming that at this point, Piccolo will beat down Frieza, and when Frieza says that he can power up and make his power level much higher, Piccolo will not let him do so, unlike what Goku would do, and Piccolo would end up killing Frieza in the fight. At this point, Goku, Krillin, and the fused Piccolo would be able to leave Namek and go back to Earth. It can be assumed that while Goku and them are on their way back, Goku and King Kai would talk and would still tell people on Earth to use the Earth Balls to revive everyone who was killed by Frieza and his men, which would bring Vegeta back. Although Vegeta would be on Namek, and since Namek isn't destroyed, that's okay. While the other heroes will return to Earth like per usual. What Vegeta decides to do after this is pretty iffy. It's likely that he will leave Namek, but where he goes next could be anywhere. There is a chance that he'll want to go back to Earth immediately so that he can meet up with Goku and demand a rematch. Something to note is that Namek is still going to be screwed even in this storyline, because King Cold would have realized that Frieza died on Namek, and he would probably destroy the planet out of frustration. After that, King Cold will probably never find Earth for a long time, so he isn't going to be a part of the equation, and Goku and friends will make it back to Earth safe and sound. Another thing to note is that Vegeta will not have a relationship with Bulma. It's very unlikely that this would happen in these circumstances, and regardless of what Vegeta does when Goku and Vegeta have a rematch, let's just say that when the androids show up, no one's going to be able to stand a chance, and everyone will be killed. Even if Goku is still alive at that point, the heart virus would kill him, and there's not really any reasonable way that this storyline could even possibly be plausible unless Piccolo for some reason fused with Kami without even knowing about the androids, which that's way too hypothetical. To make matters worse, Trunks won't exist to come back in time and give them the warning that they needed to prepare for these androids. So when the androids show up, well, I already said it, everyone is screwed. And there's no way they could win. Goku would not be a Super Saiyan, Piccolo would not stand a chance either, Vegeta wouldn't stand a chance, they'd be way too powerful. We wouldn't even have to see 17 and 18 because even 19 could solo the whole Z team with the power they have in the storyline. In conclusion, not having Chi-Chi causes a lot of issues down the road, and eventually we hit a dead end with Android 19 and Android 20 disposing of all the Z Warriors. Thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. If you care. Anyway. Anyway, this is Golden Gem Games. Sign off.